Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. Welcome back to my channel. I am here with Ariel from Reading and Whatnot.
Hello.
And I'm sure if anyone watches my channel, they already are familiar with your channel. But do you want to talk a little bit about your channel and kind of what books you normally read and what sort of content you like to put out?
I typically put out spoiler-free book reviews. I'm toying with the idea of doing some non-spoiler-free stuff, but I haven't decided wholeheartedly I want to go in that direction. I mainly read horror, thriller, and fantasy, but not high fantasy. I'm getting into that a little bit more now as an adult. It scared me as a kid. So, but that's what I do.
Awesome. We do have Stephen Corey in the chat. Happy Memorial Day weekend, Stephen. Debate: is DNA testing necessarily a good thing, or should some family secrets remain secrets? Oh, he's just jumping right in with like.
That's a good question.
That is a great question.
Do you want to go first?
I don't know. I don't like secrets. I just don't like them. So it's tough. It's really tough. Could you think about all the different scenarios where this could be at play? And, like what would I want to have? Like if my biological father was a serial killer, would I want to know that? Stuff like that. So,
I
it's
read a
really
book with that in it.
really hard to see. There you go. Really hard to answer that question though, because I can think of so many scenarios where I would say, oh, it's absolutely a good thing. Like there's so many like reasons health wise that you absolutely need to know like your hereditary background. But then on the flip side of that, sometimes secrets do tend to fester and kind of destroy. They're almost cancerous sometimes when they come out. They can be cancerous when you're keeping them as well, but they can also be cancerous when they come out. So it's kind of hard to answer that question. I guess I gave you a non-answer there, Stephen. I'm sure you wanted something a little more definitive, but what do you think?
I think that it's a good thing, and I think those secrets shouldn't be kept secret. And I say this just because I had a semi-personal experience. I had somebody that I was in a relationship with years ago who already knew that her father wasn't her father, and that her father knew about her, but she had two older sisters that didn't know anything about her. And then, they lost contact. So we found him, and she sent a letter, and nothing happened. So she sent one of the sisters a message on, I think it was MySpace, back when we used MySpace. And that opened a whole can of worms that I think ruined the life that family had, but it also gave her more family and gave them more family. It was not a harmonious adjustment whatsoever, but it was really cool to see. And that was back before the DNA testing websites. So, and her parents are her biological parents already knew that he was the father because they had already done checking in the past. So I think it could be a good thing, but if I found out that my my biological father I didn't know was a serial killer, I would just generally have questions. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe I'm desensitized by what I read and watch, but I would want to know so what'd you do? Why'd you do it? I'd go in there with a pad and paper. Sir, I need answers.
I need answers. Yeah. No, and of course, looking into the future, I can definitely see how DNA and people having access to other people's DNA is kind of a slippery slope, because when you start getting into maybe discrimination based on DNA, dating I'm thinking about dating websites and if this person has a genetic marker for XYZ, you're just
I mean, we already do that now as a culture in the world, but it's not DNA, it's race.
True.
Or
I can just see it going. I can just see it going a little bit further.
Yeah. I mean, it is a scary concept. Like, I haven't done one of those 23andMe's because they say, oh, if you check this box, they won't keep it. But like, I'm a little paranoid. I feel like they're gonna keep it.
Yeah, I don't trust that. Let's see. Since I have yet to read the book, is DNA testing covered adequately in the story? Well,
No,
I guess we need to kind of give the
it's
premise
it's
of the book.
it's talked about, but it's not explained. But I think because the author just assumes you would know how DNA testing works.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like, it's inferred.
So The Half Sister by Sandy Jones. The premise of this book is that we have a family, two sisters, Kate and Lauren, and their mother Rose, and they are sitting down to Sunday dinner, and it's quite a lively little Sunday dinner, I must say. Um, and in the middle of this, there's a knock on the door, and this girl shows up, Jess, who claims to be their half sister. She claims that their deceased father, Harry, was her biological father, and
But she doesn't know he's deceased at the beginning.
she does not know he's deceased.
Yeah.
And how this all came about is because Lauren uploaded her DNA to one of these websites. So that's kind of how this all came about.
Yeah.
And so that's the premise of the story. Did you think it needed to go further into the DNA explanation, or was that pretty clear?
No. I think for the most part, I mean, I guess if you didn't know anything about like 23andMe and, ancestry.com, then you would have questions, but it's so well known. It's so in your face in commercials and online ads and YouTube commercials. Like, you've seen it, you know what it is. Like, you have a gist of the idea, but they do not go break it down into the molecular not thought processes. That's not how molecular things work. But like, they don't go through the science of it.
Yeah, and there's really no need to. I mean, if you're into that kind of thing, I mean, get a nonfiction book on it, I suppose, but that's a little bit kind of beyond me.
Honestly,
I just know what it is, and I know that it works. And
if they would have gone into it like in detail on how it worked, it would have probably pulled me out of the story, honestly.
Yeah, it's funny. I never really do this, but before our live show, I did go on Goodreads just to look at a couple reviews to try to look for some character names, which we'll get to in a second. But which I didn't find the character name I was looking for, by the way. But one of the negative reviews about this book was something about the DNA. Like, they didn't understand the DNA. And like how it worked in relation to whether Rose was the connection or Harry was the connection. So, but I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, who doesn't understand how the DNA works? Because the daughter has DNA from both the father and the mother, right? So, it's.
But like, so can we spoiler here or no?
Yeah, I guess we can. I guess before we spoiler, let's just give kind of our take on the book, what you thought of it, like kind of overall impressions. If you do ratings, you can give a rating just for those people who may be thinking about reading the book but haven't picked it up yet.
Do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. I enjoyed the book. It was a fun read. It was a fast read. It kept me entertained. It made me ask questions, but there were plot holes that I didn't really like that could have been easily just filled. The ending, it's not so much the fact that I didn't see the ending coming is not the reason I don't like it. I don't like it because there was nothing leading to it. There wasn't even like, it's here and then they curve around it. That's not what happens. I actually say this in my review that it's like she was writing and then just decided, nope, I'm done. That's the ending, and just closed and just being like, I'm done. I gave it realistically 2.5 stars, but I did round up to 3 stars on Goodreads because I was so into it. Like, remember when I said on the group chat that like I couldn't read and I was upset because I was busy and I wouldn't have time and I was into it?
Yes.
Like, I was into it. And then as I don't know, maybe the last like 15 to 20 chapters, I was like, what is happening now? Is this the same book?
Yeah.
No. So that's my feelings.
Yeah. And if you didn't notice by now, I'm one of those people at a restaurant that I like to hear everyone else order their food first, and then I decide what I'm gonna order. Like I like, 'cause I'm like, oh, that sounds good. Yeah, I've got to kind of piggyback on what you said though, because I was so into this book. I was really invested in it. I enjoyed it. It was easy, like it was easy reading. So I do feel like if anybody is out there and they're looking for, a beach read or something just kind of easy that'll keep your attention, this is definitely that book. But there were quite a few plot holes and things that were mentioned in the book that were never really picked up. That I feel like there were some missed opportunities there, and I think
tons of missed
tons.
opportunities.
And I think all of us in the group kind of had the same feeling because we were like, it's obvious that she did not have this ending in mind when she started out writing this book. It's kind of like you said, she just got to a certain point and was like, okay, I'm just going to wrap this thing up now.
I think she might be a pantser, like writing by the seat of her pants.
Yeah.
Like that. I think she might have that writing style because that's how it felt. Like the story was very like, okay, this happened. Now what else can I make happen? Like that was the idea that I had the entire time, especially. Can we spoiler now?
We can spoiler now. So guys,
okay.
If you don't want spoilers, dip out.
So the part where Kate is like, I'm not going to go out with my husband and his friends. And then she's like, well, maybe I will. I'll just sit here and wait. And then he like walks out with Jess. I was like, okay, that's weird. And I'm just like, is she trying to get in on her husband? And then it turns out she just works there. I was like, come on.
Yeah.
Seriously, that's where we're going with this? You could have done way better.
Yeah.
I feel really bad when I critique people's writing because I don't write, but still, it's like.
Well, it's funny because I've read another book by her, The Other Woman, which I really enjoyed. I think I liked that one a bit better than this one.
I'll have to check it.
Yeah, it's good. Now it's kind of similar. Yeah, I can kind of see that sort of writing style, like you're saying. Like some stuff kind of comes out of nowhere, I guess. But yeah, you're right. With the affair, I felt really bad. I'm like, why did I even suspect this poor guy? Was his name Matt? I can't remember his name either. Okay, yeah, Matt. He was just a genuinely good guy. And
I know, I felt bad for accusing him. Like, oh, you're cheating on her, you ass.
Yeah, I was totally like sure that he was cheating on her. And then the other thing, what did you think about the entire baby room set up at Jess's house?
That you never heard about or heard anything about? No. So when I first saw that, I thought she had the idea of stealing Lauren's baby, like the youngest. That was my thought. And I was just like, I was fully ready to die on that hill that it was going to happen. And then when it was never mentioned again, and then when we get to the ending and she just is like holding this child hostage, I'm like, oh, here it is. And then it just like switches to like however, like what was it, like a year later or something. I was like, what? But so like mom is on trial. The kids are like, holy crap, we're here watching our mother be arraigned. And Jess is just hanging out. Like, did she get in trouble for holding her nephew hostage? Right. We don't know. Probably not. They probably just like, okay, well, she's a little insane. But like my mom murdered somebody. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, there's so many questions with that because I'm like, okay, at the very least, Jess, even though her story turned out to be true, that yes, their father was her father, and obviously it's revealed that Rose killed her mother. At the very least, she's insane herself because she does at the end take the kid hostage, and she has this creepy baby room, which I only, associate with people who are trying to steal someone else's child.
Or
Like
trying to have
clearly
their own child.
or trying to have their own child. Like, but obviously she's not, right? Because she's not with anyone at the time that we know of. And for a minute there, I thought she might be trying to steal Kate's child, since Kate is finally pregnant. And for a while, I thought, I thought she was, having the affair with Matt, poor Matt, who we were.
That would have been a way better story.
That would have been a good story. And I felt like it was just dropped. And then a couple of people in the group did remind me of the foster sister she had in the foster home who had the young child. Remember, she had a baby.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'm guessing, I'm guessing the room was supposed to be for them, but why didn't she let them move in? Like, the room was set up.
I mean, maybe, I don't know, but it was supposedly like an extremely small apartment though.
Yeah.
So like, and she would say, that's my roommate's room. So where's your room? Do you have a room? Because it's never talked about. So like, the living conditions of that apartment does not sound livable exactly. She said it was gross, but it was clean. Like the place was bad, but it was clean. So I don't know. Maybe that's what she was doing, but at the same time, I don't know, because it was never explained, because it was the plot holiest plot hole besides the ending. So.
Well, Stephen, he's on point here. He said, what was the weakest part of this story that you felt really needed to be explored and developed?
I will let you go first.
Oh, no. Gosh, the weakest part of this story. I'm going to go with something different. I'm going to say Simon. Okay. Simon is the abusive husband of Lauren, right? So we have this whole, that was one of the most anxiety riddled pieces of the book for me. I mean, I was just
every
totally disturbed. And so there's all of this anxiety and all of this buildup, right? Because we really I thought like this guy is going to explode, especially after Lauren started having the affair with her ex-boyfriend, her high school,
which neither of us can remember his name.
So memorable. We can't even remember his name. But
I say it was David.
I say it was Jeremy. I don't know why Jeremy is like popping out to me. But you said it wasn't Jeremy right off the bat, so it's probably not. That's just.
I mean, honestly, it could be Jeremy. I don't remember names very well. I'll be honest.
We'll call him DJ. David Jeremy.
David Jeremy. I love that. David Jeremy.
So DJ ends up sending a text message to Lauren.
This part killed me. Oh my God.
Because I'm like, okay, dude, you're having an affair with a married woman who has 3 small children. Like, you have to assume that her husband is looking at her phone. Like, you just have to assume that. You have to, do whatever talking code or something, but you've got to be very, very careful, because she's told you he's abusive. She's told you all of this. So when all of that went down, I was expecting like a huge breakdown, a huge explosion, something really major to happen with Simon and that whole storyline. And it didn't. It was like, okay, all of this build up to, well, nothing really, because basically I think he threatens to beat up DJ, but that was about it.
Well, and then he takes the kids and goes wherever, and then they find them, and he's just like, that's when he gets violent. But it's more like he's doing that like huffy chest male bravado thing. Look at me bang my
Yeah.
bang my chest. Ooh, me man, you woman, bad.
Yeah.
Like,
That was
like
good.
I will tell you that I agree with you wholeheartedly on it, because that part, whenever I was reading that part and she said, I'm just going to leave my phone on the bed because, you know, whatever, I was like, oh, like I called what happened. But you're
Yeah.
right. I thought that he was going to beat the living crap out of her. Like I
Yeah.
pictured him coming into the bathroom while she's taking a shower and just beating her right there while she's wet and naked.
Yeah.
That was the kind of personality he had. That was the feelings that I was having about him. And this woman, who the person who wrote the book, she wrote Simon the way that I feel like you can only write a person like that if you've experienced it or been around a person that experienced it. And reading that and having that realization in my head, or at least that assumption in my head, I felt just very terrible for the author. But I was like,
Yeah.
maybe that's why she didn't take that route, because she didn't want to relive an experience, or didn't want people to think, okay, well, you know, every man who is very fragile in their masculinity is violent, because that's not necessarily true either. But that was not the biggest plot hole for me. The biggest plot hole for me was mom killing Jess's mom. That whole thing, even though it was explained, it really bothered me. It bothered me so much
What
because
do you think it would have been better if it had been Harry, the dad?
I think it would have been better if it was Harry the dad, because he had more to lose, and mom was just jealous. That was a rage, jealousy killing, if there ever could be one. And I just, that ending could have worked. Have you seen Game of Thrones? Have you seen it all
Yes.
the way through?
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about Game of Thrones for just a quick second to make a point. So at the end, when Daenerys goes bat crazy and just burns an entire town,
Yeah.
that was believable. But how fast it happened, not so believable, because she was going pretty mental as things were going on, because she was getting power and things like that. But she needed a couple more years of being crazy to lead up to that kind of crazy. And that's the exact same thing I felt about that. It's just like I had the exact same feeling. I'm like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. There's not enough build up to it. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what? I agree a little bit, but here's the thing. We don't really know, like we don't really get Rose or Harry's perspective, and maybe that would have helped. Like maybe if
Yeah.
we had flashbacks of Harry or flashbacks of Rose where she was dealing with Harry's infidelity, because it does come out that this is not the only woman, right? That Harry had other affairs, because Rose kept referencing some other affair that he had that was not Jess's mom. So, you know, never underestimate a jealous woman.
Okay.
And
That
over
is not what.
time, I think this woman dealt with this behavior for years. And I guess maybe the coup de grace was that he had this child. And it appears like he may have been thinking of leaving Rose.
That part right there wasn't flushed out enough for me. But that's
Yeah.
why the ending bothers me so much.
Yeah.
So when you go to an ending of a book and it's the same thing. It's like it's here and everything goes around it, and that makes sense. This ending, like I said earlier, wasn't here. It was like off screen. But
True.
but if we would have seen more, because like the book just ends at the beginning of a court hearing.
Yeah.
We didn't hear testimony. We
Nope.
didn't learn any information. I could argue that if you wanted to end a book that way, you at least add court case files at the end of the book so that the reader can get closure. It was literally just, oh my God, all these things are happening, but this is what's actually happening. I didn't give you any clues or any hints or even mention it, but here's the ending. I'm really upset about the ending. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was. I liked it in one sense. I don't think it was well executed, but I did like how we have these two sisters, and they each idolize pretty much a different parent, right? So Kate is the daddy's girl. She is, his, you know, biggest fan. And then we have Lauren, who thinks that her father is, this manipulative, horrible person because of what she thinks he did to her. And she thinks her mom is just this caring, self sacrificing angel of a woman. And by the end of the book, I kind of liked how they both were, proved wrong. That, the parents were, I don't want to say equally because the mom is a murderer, but, they were knocked off their pedestals. So I did kind of like that reversal, but it was not well executed. Yeah, it was very kind of haphazard towards the end.
Now that I'm thinking about it, the mother was never really painted in a very good light. Not by either daughter, not by what we learn of the past. So maybe that was the author's way of leading up to that ending. But
I was a little suspicious of the mom. Were you ever, throughout the book, were you ever
I was, but not for the murder. I thought Jess was hers. I did.
Oh, okay.
For quite a while, I did. I thought Jess, especially when they bring up the part where Kate finds the baby clothes.
Yeah.
And the baby bracelet, and her mom is like, I don't know what you're talking about. Snatch, throw away. Yeah. I was like, okay, so she either A, had a baby with another man, or B, the baby came on in bad circumstances in a relationship. This is years ago, I had a client and I were talking about how him and his wife were about to have their fourth child, but they were planning on giving it up for adoption because they just couldn't afford the baby. And it was going to be an open type of adoption, but some parents choose closed adoption when it comes to that sort of thing. So that was where my mind went with it. I was thinking she's ashamed. And maybe she just feels like, oh, we couldn't take care of her. We had to give her away. But I want to keep on to her baby things, but I'm going to hide them and never tell my daughters about them. So that's what I thought. I thought that she gave the baby up for adoption and that was that. But then that's not what happened.
Yeah, I was a little bit skeptical of her. I don't know. I just got a weird vibe from her. And I can't really point to anything specific other than, yeah, she was so adamant that you are not to look into this. We're not talking about this. We're not going to discuss it. What did you think about the inclusion of Lauren's abortion? Because it comes out that Lauren's a teenager. She gets pregnant by her boyfriend. She wants to have the baby. She wants to be with him. And the mother, we find out, she thought it was her father, but it was actually her mother who kind of manipulates things to make that happen, right? She tells the boyfriend, oh, she's had an abortion, so that the boyfriend doesn't, want anything to do with her. So then, of course, she's devastated and she kind of goes along with it. What did you think about the inclusion of that? Did you think it was necessary?
I think it was necessary to move the plot along, because it felt like we were getting a little stale because there wasn't a lot to go on anymore as far as their investigation that Jess and Lauren were doing, even though Lauren knew the whole time who her mother was. Because it was a segue into, oh, well, it could be this, it could be that. It just gave us another thing to think about. I do think, however, that the way it was described and what she went through could have been done a little differently, because it was done in a way that I felt like didn't it didn't show the hurt that she had to have that abortion well enough. Because being told you have to have an abortion by a parent at a young age because the person who helped you make that baby doesn't want you. Like, I felt her hurt, but it didn't come across as hurt as I feel like she should have been or would have been if she were a real person.
You know, that's interesting that you point that out, because this book is definitely like more of a family drama than it is like a thriller sort of book.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
But I didn't really feel, I mean, I loved the, you know, readability and how it was fast paced and it kept me interested, but I didn't believe the sibling bond between Kate and Lauren.
It was
off. There was no chemistry at all. It was like so weird.
It's like they grew up in different houses, and I mean, you could argue that it's the age difference, but I think their difference is like 3 or 4 years. And my sister and I have 6.5 years on us, and we're way more in sync with each other than that.
Yeah.
Like, even if we are vastly different people, we're still siblings, and you can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, that to me was one of the things that right off the bat was kind of off. And, you know, I get sibling rivalry, like I get that, but even with that, like there's still needs to be some sort of chemistry there, some sort of bond, something bringing them together. So it was really odd to me, because it's like the mom is having these weekly dinners, but the girls are virtually strangers. I mean, each of them kind of thought that the other had it together, right?
Oh my God, no, it made no sense.
It was like, how do you not see, A, that Simon is an absolute just prick, for lack of a better word, and B, how do you not know that your sister wants a baby so badly? And like, you know, I don't know many people who've gone through like fertility treatments, but the one thing that they all said is how it just made them an emotional like wreck.
Yeah.
And you would assume that someone you're seeing at least once a week would kind of notice these changes in you, like,
and they would talk about it too. Like, I feel like I mean, I've only known one person to go through fertility treatments. It was a woman I worked with years ago, and she was talking about her struggles in life daily. And like, I was like 5 years younger than her, and I mean, we were on different points in our lives at that point, but it was like she would talk about it and tell me how she was feeling and describe to me body aches and pains and emotional stress and how she couldn't sleep at night because she felt like she was a failure because she couldn't have a baby on her own. And like, those type of things, if you look into that, like, those are feelings that you're going to have. Like, I feel like, how do you sit, like, if you and I had dinner once a week, you would know more about my life than probably other people would, because we would see each other once a week. You know what I mean? It's like, I just don't get it.
Just the nature of the quantity of the time that you're spending together, some of these things would come up. So that to me was kind of,
especially the Simon thing. Like, yeah. I know like the typical answer to like a woman that's being beaten is, you know, not saying anything, suffering in silence. But like, a lot of times the family are the ones that know. But they don't just know because they're hearing it from the person that's being the person in that situation, because they can see it. And yeah, they may think they know Simon's an asshole.
Yeah.
But they don't say anything. Like, especially mom. I'm sorry, if I noticed that my child was in a relationship that like obviously was extremely toxic, I would be that mom being like, you want to come live with me?
Yeah.
Bring the children.
Yeah.
Grandma is here.
Yeah. I mean, I have friends, like not even family, who have been in toxic, abusive situations, and I did way more than this mom in helping them
Oh
like
yeah.
extricate themselves from the situation. So to me, that was just absolutely unbelievable. Um, and it's something else too. And I mean, I've read other books that have had abusive relationships in them, and it's really hard to read about. And of course, the whole time I'm reading, I'm like, you need to leave him, like, just leave him. And I think the one thing that was missing for me with that whole scenario was what actually attracted her to this guy to begin with. Because, you know, obviously the abuser doesn't start off that way, right? There's some reason, you know, they're good at manipulation in the beginning, and you know, we never saw that part. So it was really hard. It was harder for me to connect with Lauren, I think, because of that, because I didn't really see that process. I think when I see that process in a book, it's a lot easier to really connect with that character and kind of feel more, you know, for them. Um, because we didn't really see that. We just saw from the very beginning. He was just an absolute loser. I mean,
Well,
just
she says in the book that he wasn't like his attitude had changed. He'd become more what's the word I'm looking for? He had become more controlling, and he would become more sensitive when it came to her working. Like he's like, you stay home, you take care of the children, I'm the man, I work. And then at one point where he's like, where he knew she went out with him, and that she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't want to tell you, I took a shift here. And then he like got upset with her for working. And I'm just like, what in the toxic masculinity is this? Like, why is this a thing? Like,
yeah,
I feel like that maybe he was not as bad in the beginning. That's a complete possibility. But he changed, and it sounds like he changed from what the book says. It kind of sounds like he changed on a dime when things started not going his way and losing jobs and things. He sounds like a
yeah.
deadbeat.
And something else too. It's like I have no problem with, you know, if a man is like, you know, I really want to work really hard so that my wife doesn't have to work, you know, so if she wants to stay home and take care of the kids, like, absolutely. I think every family kind of has a situation that works best for them. But like, obviously, this was not her choice.
Oh yeah.
And he wasn't doing a good job. Like you said, he was kind of a deadbeat. Like, he didn't work frequently. I'm not convinced he wasn't cheating on her. Like, I think a lot of the times he was working, he was not working. Okay. It,
I
it just
mean,
seemed
maybe.
it just seemed
Yeah.
odd to me that he was doing like these overnight jobs. Like, I don't know. It just seemed
Or when
weird.
he wasn't working, he was at the bar.
Yeah. And he's totally projecting on her because, you
Oh yeah.
know, like anyone who is cheating on someone, the first thing they do, it seems, is accuse their significant other of doing the very thing that they're doing. So I
Yeah.
felt like some of that was probably him. And I don't know, I would have liked, it's like I said, I think that wasn't really wrapped up well. I would have liked to have seen maybe
That wasn't
that
wrapped
come
up at
out.
all.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't, and not just well at all. Like that
Yeah.
kind of bothered me because you don't know where he went, what they're gonna do, and then like DJ said that he was said that he's like, oh, I'll take care of you, like you can move in with
Yeah.
me. And somebody in the we had a conversation about it in the group chat, and I don't exactly remember what all was said for word, but somebody was like, why would they do that? And I'm like, I mean, probably because he loves her, and probably because he's always loved her.
Yeah.
And like he's just like, well, this is kind of my fault. Let me help you
Yeah.
until you get back on your feet, which is code for we're gonna live together forever and forever because this is what we chose.
Yeah.
Whether yeah, because like you can tell they love each other, but also they don't know each other. That's the thing that bothered me about is that
Yes.
it had been 20 years. He
Yes.
had a child that was like 16. She's got infants. Their lives have gone totally opposite directions, and they don't know each other. Like, I want them to get to know each other. I think he's a much better fit than Simon, but like, they didn't get to know each other like at all. It was like, what was it, like a week?
Yeah, I was the skeptic. I think I was the first one who raised like the
You
alarm. I
did.
was like, okay, this is totally unbelievable. Like, this guy just comes back into her life after 20 years and he's still completely and madly in love with her, and he's willing to take her on and her 3 kids. And I guess the more I thought about it, they do have kind of a almost like a trauma bond, over this whole thing with the abortion, and how all that went down. So they do have kind of like some unresolved history there. But I'm just thinking about it, of course, from my own perspective, and I'm like, okay, I am a completely different person today than I was 20 years ago. Like, I don't even, maybe I'm not. I don't know. Some people might say I'm very similar, but you just think about how much happens in 20 years, and it's like you said, they don't know each other. But maybe you come across your first love and you get kind of wrapped up in it. And his kids were grown, so that is something. His kids are grown, so he can, I guess, take on her, and he did create this mess. And maybe
I don't think he created it. I think that they created it together.
They did.
But like,
they did.
To touch on your fact about like being different than you were 20 years ago, if I could talk to 22-year-old me, I would look at her and go, why? Why? Like, at 22, I mean, yeah, I still had the same quirks, and I was still like constantly laughing at things and spilling food on my shirt and just being outwardly ridiculous all the time, because that's just my personality. But there are a lot of core things about me that are never going to change. But there are things that I've attached to, things that I've grown from, and that is why I would like that relationship is believable, because like you said, trauma bond, and he's like, I caused this, let me help you. But that doesn't mean that relationship's going to work. They don't know each other. They've changed a lot. Now, can they get to know each other and grow together? Absolutely. But it's just like 22-year-old me would look at me and go, oh, well, I mean, that was good. Good job.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, I would think most people would look at their 22-year-old self or 20-year-old self and say, a great many things. What are you thinking? You'll be okay, I hope. You live and you learn, you grow. And I don't know, I guess I don't have much experience with high school relationships actually translating into real life adult relationships. Like, most of the people that I know, I can think of one couple I know, and this is pretty wild. They have been together since she was in 8th grade and he was in 10th grade. He has been her only boyfriend. They have been together. They have 3 children together. They have been married probably, I don't know, almost 20 years at this point. Like, so sometimes it happens.
I was going to say, I only know one couple as well, and it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, they got together in like 8th grade. They got separated in high school. She fought to get to that high school. They left high school together. They do actually have 3 kids. They had their first 2 at 20 and 21, and then they had one like 4 years ago. But they've only been with each other. They've been married for like 15 years. No, 13 years. They got married like shortly out of high school, like 2 years out of high school or something like that. But like, they've only had each other, and they are very much in love.
Yeah.
Being around them is like, holy crap. That's what I read about in books, where people are just so in love. Like, it's I don't want to use the word sickening because I feel like that's bad, but like it's like when you have something too
Sugary
sweet.
sweet. Yeah.
When you have something too sweet and you're like, no, I can't have that. That's too sweet. Like that's like when I go to Starbucks and I get a coffee and I tell them how I want it and they make it wrong and I'm like, I'm gonna have to dilute this with more coffee.
Ooh, fun question. What is your Starbucks order?
I have many, depends.
What are your favorites? What are you?
Well, I have a coffee right here, which is a venti iced hazelnut latte with 4 pumps of hazelnut and 3 pumps of chai. It tastes like Christmas.
Oh.
Yeah. Or I will do a iced caramel macchiato with extra caramel drizzle on the bottom and the sides because I get like 5 shots in it, so it kind of balances out the bitter from the shots.
Nice.
So those are my Starbucks orders. What's your Starbucks order?
My Starbucks order is the vanilla sweet cream nitro cold brew. All about that nitro cold brew. It is like almost 300 grams of caffeine in it. It's ridiculous.
Hence the 5 shots.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. And it's funny because I have a couple friends at work that I'm always talking about them drinking like the energy drinks, like Monster Energy or Bang or whatever. I'm like, oh, they're so bad for you. And then I'm like, okay.
Okay. Well, those things are bad for you because of the amount of sugar and chemicals.
Yeah.
You're having like there's way less chemicals in a nitro cold brew. Yes. And I do like the nitro cold brews, but I just have to be in the mood for one.
Yeah.
It's just there's something about like before I'm not really a big hot coffee drinker. So before I worked for Starbucks for a really long time. Did I tell you that?
No. Okay.
I worked for Starbucks.
Tell us the best, tips, the Starbucks, like,
I worked for Starbucks for like 4 or 5 years. Like it was a long time. And like the only drink I would recommend never getting are the Frappuccinos because they are mainly syrups and ice. Like, and the frap roast they put in is just instant stuff. You just mix it with water. It's not worth it. Get yourself a latte.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I try to get like things at Starbucks that are not like a ton of sugar and don't have like 800 calories, and you can get plenty of stuff there that's not like super crazy. Like, I mean, I wouldn't.
So I do have another drink order way before the pandemic started, I was going to the gym like 4 days a week and I had lost a lot of weight. Like but I still needed my coffee and I still needed it to be kind of sweet. So I was getting the nitro cold brew with the sugar-free cinnamon dolce.
Oh.
And that, and just a teeny bit of like, I'm talking just a little bit of heavy cream.
Nice.
So that was, I called that my weight loss coffee because it barely had anything in it. And it was a lot of caffeine.
Yep. That's what you need for those heavy lifts that you do at the gym. You gotta have some caffeine. I do.
I was starting to do weightlifting like for about 2 months before the pandemic hit, but then the gyms all shut down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
That's where it's at. I'm a personal trainer. That's where it's at. Get those heavy lifting back in. It's funny because at the gym there's like kind of ebbs and flows of how busy it is. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of interesting because this year it's been just busy usually there's a lot of people in January and then it kind of like peters out by March 1st. But it seems like there's more and more new people coming, which is kind of good.
I actually just read an article on that.
Oh yeah?
I think the article was called like Americans starved for exercise or joining gyms. And nice. But it wasn't just gyms, it was gyms and things like CrossFit and things like, I guess I live in Florida, so we don't have crazy people who run in the middle of the day. Because between like 10 or 11 to like 3 to 4. It's so hot most of the time that you'd pass out if you tried.
Yeah.
But one of the things they were talking about are these like trail running things that I think they're doing in like Maine or something, where people just get up and meet each other at 3:45 in the morning and run.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not a runner. I know you're a runner, but like the idea of getting up at 3:45 for anything, no.
Yeah. It's funny because, you know, I don't care what people do as long as they move. Like, you know, of course I love running. Like that's my jam. And I know it's not everybody's jam. But I think there's something for everybody, you know, there's something for everybody that's fun. And the one thing I do like about weightlifting is, you know, if you just think about this set that you're doing right now, you know, you can get through a whole workout before you have even thought about it. And it's a short period of discomfort, whereas long distance running, it is harder to get people to buy in with that because it's a long period of discomfort. So it's a little bit different, but I've seen a ton of people making some really cool progress in the gym, and I'm not like in the best shape that I could be right now, but it's really cool to see people like get back into just anything active. It's just super fun. But the getting up early, yeah, I have some clients that they started out and they were like, yeah, let's do 6 a.m. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And then it's like the second week, it's like I get a 10 p.m. text, don't think I'm gonna make it. And I'm like, let's just do the afternoon. Like if it's not happening in the morning, just why push it? Like you don't have to be one of those like morning, you know, workout people. And I think that's what some people do. They just like think they have to do, you know, XYZ because that's what the influencer on Instagram said, or that's what, you know, the people at the gym said, or whatever. But I do get up early on race days. I can't sleep. Like I'll get up at like 4 a.m.
Well, that's adrenaline. That's exciting.
That's like a whole different thing. But normally, no, I'm not up at 3:45. Those people are a whole different breed if that's their normal.
I used to get up at 7 and then be to the gym by 7:30, and then I would work out until like 9, and then I would shower, and then I would be at work by 9:30. And then on the one day that I went to the gym that wasn't a work day, I would be at the gym by like 9, and I loved that because there was nobody there past like 9:30. And then I would just be there until I felt like I was done. It was honestly, working out was the best thing that ever happened to my mental health. Mine is going to therapy, but like my therapist has told me that physical activity helps me more than most medications help people.
It is so wild. Like you know, that is one thing that running really did for me is the mental health part. I mean, I'm just like so much more energetic. You know, I feel like I'm much happier and kind of content, and you know, I'm a pretty kind of baseline person most of the time, I feel like, anyway, but the running really kind of is what got me through, I think, a lot of that like COVID craziness and all of that stuff. So definitely a game changer for a lot of people. Stephen, as a truck driver, AM, PM, or 7-Eleven extra 7 to 11 extra caffeine 24-ounce cup of grog that has been sitting in the maker for at least 5 hours. That keeps me up for 300 miles straight. Oh man. Whew.
Not only does that sound like it tastes awful, Stephen, that also sounds like, I don't know how you have, you know, that there's like a commercial that I keep seeing where this woman has a toilet as a driver's seat in her car. Is that what your truck is like? Because like my intestines would not survive. Like I've had 7-Eleven coffee one time in my life, and I didn't even get through a quarter of it before I was like, nope, I know what I'm doing for the rest of the day. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah. Stephen, right on, man. Good for you. Keep on trucking if that's what gets you through.
I was going to say pun intended.
Yeah. I'll go to Starbucks and order one of those. Oh, good. So Alex is taking, I think, one of your Starbucks orders.
Yes.
Internet fitness and real life fitness are two very different things. 100%.
Oh my God, yes.
100%.
The same thing as book buying and book reading are two very different things.
Yes. There are a ton of people buying books on Instagram.
Oh, I know. Well, it's like
whether they read all of them, I'm like, oh my gosh, like
I have several books up here that everything up here that you can physically see, minus 2 books up here, I've actually read. There's a couple books down here that I haven't read, but I don't typically buy books unless I've either A, read it already and I need it and I'm going to read it again, or B, it's from an author. Like when Erin Morgenstern, because we talked about the Starless Sea before coming on camera. I'm not the Starless Sea, the Night Circus. When the Starless Sea came out, I went and bought it day of. Yeah. But I couldn't bring myself to read it for like a month because I was so scared that I would hate it because I loved her first book so much. That was not the case at all. Yeah. Matter of fact, I think I love that one more.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I'm not saying that people that buy books for pleasure it's a bad thing. I want you to keep doing it. But when I first got on YouTube, that was one of the things that I saw where the people that were growing really fast or the people that were just generally getting a lot of views, their videos were of book hauls and book unhauls or come book shopping with me. And nor I don't have the space nor the money nor the time to do that kind of thing. Yeah. So I probably will never be one of those major booktubers that have built their platform on that.
Their shelves look immaculate. My shelves do not look that good because I'm a librarian, so I wholeheartedly
Wait, your shelves don't look good and you're a librarian?
No, not my home shelves. Not my home shelves. My shelves at work look good, but my shelves at home do not look good because I think you should support your local libraries. Yes. And I buy a lot of secondhand books. I have friends who will get books for me secondhand when they see them at, various library sales and they know I'm into JFK and they'll buy stuff for me. So yeah, mine don't look pristine.
I don't know why you would want your books to look pristine. Like I do have, like up here, I have the Japanese version of the Night Circus. And I love that book. I want to keep that book looking as great as possible. On this shelf, I have the Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern that's signed. I had a friend buy it for me for my birthday, and it's signed, and she knows my name. She doesn't know who I am, but she wrote it. So, that's all that matters.
She wrote your name once. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. But it's like those type of books, yes, I want to keep them nice. But if you actually looked through my shelves of all these books that I've read, there's coffee stains. There's fingerprints with probably Cheeto dust or something, but they're mine. I want them to feel like they've been read. And one of my favorite things about going to the library, because I support my local libraries a lot. I get my books from the library, whether it be physical or on my Kindle or an audiobook from the library, because I want my libraries to stay open. And living in the state of Florida, that's something we're really pushing for right now. And also, I want to feel the book that has been loved by someone else.
Yes, I usually call them a well-loved book. And Alex Sierra says a worn book is a loved book, usually. Yes.
Usually.
Yes. Sometimes, there are books that make their way back to the library that have been, torn to pieces. But, for the most part, if it just has like the usual wear, I like to see that. Yeah, I mean that's normal wear.
This is a used book.
Yeah.
So like a lot of this is not a library book, although I do see a lot of books like this that are Stephen King books that look just like this that are paperback at my local library. But it's stuff like that. Almost all my books look something like they all look kind of crispy. Yeah. I don't know how to say that. I don't want to say ruined because that's not what I mean. But Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. Um, all right. Well, I guess we've kind of covered everything from the
And
book to
coffee and gym.
coffee, gym, well-loved books, all that good stuff. And yeah, I'm not hating on the people who buy books. I
No,
buy
definitely
books
not.
too, and but it is funny. You do notice that a lot of people, they have like these huge book hauls, and I mean, I watch them. I think they're beautiful and they're fun to watch, but I just don't have. I'm like you. I don't have the money and I don't have the space for all of those books. But maybe one day I will, and I'll convert to buying all brand new pristine books. But my most loved book is not pristine and it's not new, but it is a first edition, and it's that 1959 The Manchurian Candidate, and I just love that book
Mhm.
so much. It's not in mint condition, but it's in very good condition. But to me, that book is just absolutely beautiful, and I'm sure some people come into my house and they look at, because I have it like kind of displayed like with the cover facing out,
I want to see
and,
it.
and I'm
I need to
sure
see it.
I'll have to get it when we're done. I have friends come over, I'm sure they're looking at that like, why is that book is kind of old, and but to me, I love it. So to each his
Um,
own.
one of my friends has a first edition copy of Rebecca, and
Oh,
it is not torn up, but it's got obvious nicks and dings, and it's got fraying because it's the book is actually I think it's fabric. I think the binding is fabric. That's what it looks like. But it's beautiful. But because it's so aged and because it's well loved, that's what gives a book beauty. It's not just about this vibrant popping colors on the dust jacket or the inlays on the actual book. It Weathered old books look better than new books. Like
yeah.
that's just what it is.
I am not good at weeding books from my library, because when I find older books that have a certain look to them, and I know I should weed them, because I just know, like, high school student is not going to pick up this book, but I can't let it
Yeah.
go. I can't let it go, because you're like, you're never going to find another book like this. Like, this is
I want to
not
show
in
you.
vogue anymore.
I'm just dropping stuff all over the place. So this book is it's one of the first books, the first LGBT book I ever read. And I read it from my school's library, and I wanted a copy. So I had a friend scour. I didn't know she was doing this, but she was scouring like book stuff, because my mom didn't like take me to like local shops and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
my family's not a reading family. So she found this book and she put stickers on it and tape, and it's literally falling apart. Like,
Yeah.
but it is one of my favorite books to physically look at and hold, and it's a good story too. But it's just like, this book is falling apart, but I love this book.
That book tells a story, though.
Yes,
And it's not just the story of the book, it's the story of
the water
you
stains on
loving the book, your friend like looking for this book for you, like scouring, so it has a cool story behind it. So
yes,
I like that. That's really cool. That
yeah.
is really cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you, Ariel, for co-hosting this month with me. I had so much
Thank
fun.
you.
I will say, stay in the Black Hearts Book Club group chat. You're under no obligation to like read with us every month or any
You have
month,
to
but
re-add
just,
me.
oh, did you? Oh, that's right. I have to re-add you and take out your
Yep.
nemesis.
Yes.
So
I actually
if
had somebody text me during this, like from their phone, saying, "Hey, are you messaging me on
oh
Instagram?" And I'm like,
my
"No, please."
gosh,
So
oh
my personal
no,
Instagram account for like what I do for work, my one for BookTube, my main email address, all got hacked, and I can't get into it. And then someone tried to hack my Facebook at almost 3 o'clock in the morning last night. So it's like, I don't know what's going on.
it's so weird. It's like, what about me? Like, why did they want to take my
Apparently
stuff?
they're
It's so
putting stuff
weird.
out about Bitcoin, and I'm like, I don't know Bitcoin. Like, nobody on my page is going to fall for Bitcoin. That's all
Yeah,
I have to say.
yeah. When these people follow me and they have like 2 followers and they're following like 1,000 people, I just immediately block them.
Yeah.
Because I just know, I'm like, it's got to be Bitcoin. Sure enough, you go to their profile and it's like,
Bitcoin.
something about Bitcoin. So yeah, so guys, if you follow Ariel on Instagram, her new Instagram is the reading and whatnot with the actual at symbol or and symbol. Is that correct?
No, it's actually reading and whatnot with two. I think it's 2 ends instead of 1 end and.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one or the other. It's a picture of me holding books. So.
Okay. The real one is the picture of her holding books, guys. All right. Not the one that says buy Bitcoin. No.
Oh no.
With the 2 thumbs up or something. All right. Well,
thank you for having me on. I appreciated it.
Yeah, I had so much fun, and we'll have to do this again. I'll have to let you know whenever I get to the night circus, because we could definitely chat about that. I hope that would be fun.
I own like 5 variations of the book, so please let me know.
Well, see, I figured, I was like, that would be a great chat to have because you would know literally everything about the book. Gosh, she even has a book pillow. Go ahead, show off that book pillow. Look at that.
So it actually opens like a book.
That never gets old.
And it's soft.
That is so cool.
It's typically on the bed, but on the desk for today.
That is cool. All right. Well, thank you to anyone who watched this, and join us.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, and thank you for the comments and the questions, Stephen and Alex, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.
Bye.